Veil Containment is a new weekly lore drop added to Destiny 2 to help answer the question, what is the Veil? The Lightfall campaign left us with more questions than answers, and through the Veil Containment, Bungie are going to be looking to give us hints as to the next steps of Destiny 2's story, for the upcoming Final Ship expansion, plus hints as to what comes next. Well, today I'm going to have a closer look at Veil Containment, why you should care about it, how to access it, and what the latest message means for the story in Destiny 2. Well, before we look at Veil Containment, I want to have a quick look at Parting the Veil. So this was a quest that was dropped in Season of the Deep, and at the end of the quest we got a new hand cannon called the Veil Integration. Yeah, it's a decent reward in its own right, but the lore along the way was also very, very good if you are a fan of Destiny 2. So in this quest we interact with a terminal, and that revealed more details about the Veil narrated by Osiris and Nimbus. So it details the story of Kioma Essie, an Ishtar Collective researcher and one of Neomuna's founders. Once you completed the quest, you can return to the terminal to get more audio logs explaining Essie's and Maya Sundaresh's studies of the Veil, the Vex, and also the history of Neomuna. In the Parting the Veil quest, we had important details reiterated from the Lightfall campaign and also the Root of Nightmares raid. That includes Nezrak describing Savathun bringing the Veil to Neptune. I would imagine most people completed Parting the Veil quest at the start of Season of the Deep, but if you didn't, then go and have a chat with Nimbus on Neomuna right away, because it's some really, really good lore and some really, really good story as well. There's a few rewards here, including the Veil Integration hand cannon. Already mentioned that one. We've got a new strand aspect, always very useful, plus we've got access to the weekly lore drops. Okay, let's have a closer look at what Veil Containment is. So at the end of Parting the Veil, Osiris seeing these time to crack into Essie's encrypted logs, which are protected by a Vex algorithm. The weekly lore drops via Veil Containment are the product of Osiris working through the audio logs and releasing them week by week. So to get access to these audio logs, you have to check out the Neomuna map via the director and select the Veil Containment node. If you can't see the Veil Containment node, then you are going to have to complete the Parting the Veil quest. As I mentioned, go and speak to Nimbus on Neomuna to get that one done, and I'm assuming you have to own the Lightfall expansion. So if you're interested in the story of Destiny 2, then Veil Containment is going to be a very important location to check in week over week as we head towards Final Shape, likely to release early in 2024, which is the final chapter of the Light vs Darkness saga. So as well as dropping hints for the Final Shape, these audio logs could be pointing towards where the story could be heading after the Final Shape and the next major saga in Destiny. Okay, next up, let's have a look at why you should care about the Veil Containment. I think the latest story drop in Veil Containment is a good illustration of why you should care. It's a very, very exciting story. Well, first of all, before we go into the details, let's check out the audio log and the latest Veil Containment entry.
Kioma Essie. Research log. Lakshmi 2.
What?
Maya's... I don't even know what to say. I'd recused myself from further experiments. Told her to take some time off. She refused. And the minute I wasn't there, she started hauling the brain-dead Exos out of cold storage, hooking them up to the Veil interface. She burned through dozens of them, reversed the entire machine's design, used a chorus of brain-dead Exos to funnel data down to the conductor seat, projecting a mental imprint. Hers. I didn't know Lakshmi 2, but Maya did. And now she's made this thing. It speaks with her voice, has some of her memories. The way it looks at me. It's like it knows something I don't.
Osiris, do you recognize that name? Lakshmi?
Yes. And no. Lakshmi too was an exo and once leader of a faction on Earth known as the Future War Cult. She died over a year ago, but she never once made mention of any of this. Of Neomuna, of Maya. Did she know? Did she remember? This is all as much a revelation to me as it is to you. It throws everything she did while in the last city into question.
I mean, if she was a copy of Dr. Sundaresh, then is she really dead?
I don't know. For now, I must deliver a rather uncomfortable report to Ikora.
So this week they talk about Lakshmi 2, who is the exo leader of the faction Future War Cult. So the audio log provides a definitive link between Maya Sundaresh and Lakshmi 2. So Maya created something called the device all the way back in the Golden Age, and the Future War Cult had a device that allowed for visions of the future. It was a literal device that you'd put on your head like a VR unit and plug yourself into. However, the visions that it gave you were horrific and showed you a dark future. Well, Lakshmi 2 ended up going mad, being corrupted by Savathun's song in Season of the Splicer, and she died at the end of the season. Previously, Maya had been linked to Lakshmi 2, although it had never been this concrete before. Here in the audio logs, we hear about Maya imprinting herself into the mind of an exo, and that is Lakshmi 2. Maya and Essie escaped during the first collapse and discovered Neomuna. It's likely that the exo became Lakshmi 2, and they were on board their ship. Later, Maya would go on to download herself into an exo and then go back to Earth to lead the Future War Cult. So it feels like the story of Maya Sundaresh and her experiments with the exos and research related to the Vex, it's all going to be very, very important for future stories in Destiny 2, so I think it is well worth paying attention to the Veil Containment releases each week. So there's an interesting quote found on a wiki page for Maya Sundaresh, and it reads as follows. In various Indian religions, there's a concept known as Maya, which has a variety of meanings, generally relating to the illusionary nature of reality, or the ability to turn ideas into physical reality. In some contexts, Maya is described as a veil, hiding the true nature of the universe. Additionally, Maya is an epithet for the Hindu goddess Lakshmi, and collectively these ideas may be alluded to by the story of Maya Sundaresh's experiences with the Veil and her creation of Lakshmi 2. So really interesting little tidbit there from that wiki page. Next up, I want to have a look at the potential for future stories. So Bungie have recently held a roundtable with the press talking about the future story in Destiny 2. Part of this is a backlash to the lackluster performance of the campaign in Lightfall. Bungie are trying to step out there on the front foot and get ahead of it. The feedback for the story in Lightfall really was not very good. And if you play through the campaign, you know what I'm talking about. But at least now Bungie is kicking into gear and giving us more details about the Veil week over week. Okay, so it may not be the perfect delivery vehicle, but at least we are getting the details. And I don't know about you, this week's Veil Containment really got me interested in these stories. But as I mentioned, Bungie has been doing a recent roundtable, and Nico Stevens, the senior narrative designer, has said a few things. So they said, I think once Final Shape concludes, the Vex might be in a position to do some more stuff. Okay, that is a little bit vague, but it does go into more specifics later on. So Nico does go on to say, we're trying to bring the Vex in a little bit more of a personalized way right now, in a way that connects with the Witness's story via the Soul Divisive. These were the Vex that went all the way back to Destiny 1 with the Black Heart. They've kind of been expanded through piecemeal drops here and there up until Spire of the Watcher, which is a really big insight into the Soul Divisive and how closely they are aligned with the Witness. Well, it sounds like Bungie's got big plans for the Vex in the future of Destiny 2, and you may be asking yourself, why? Why the Vex? We've been fighting the Vex since 2014. We've had the Vault of Glass, the Curse of Osiris, Season of Undying, the Spire of the Watcher, just to name a few Vex-themed events. Are we not done with the Vex? Well, the Vex, they're definitely interesting because they cannot be reasoned with. They are simply machines. In the Light vs. Darkness saga, we're battling against the Witness, the Darkness, the fleet of pyramid ships, and we've allied with some factions of Cabal, Elixir, and perhaps next season we could even align with a small faction of the Hive, with a potential return of Savathun. But the Vex are a different breed altogether. The Vex are a cyber-organic species. They're as ancient as the universe itself, enigmatic and inscrutable. They work ceaselessly to convert planets and other celestial bodies into vast machines, and they're hostile towards any form of life that gets in their way. Their technology is among the most advanced ever encountered by humanity, enabling incredible feats of material and space-time engineering, and even time travel. Well, I don't know about you, I haven't really been interested in the story in Destiny 2 for some time. I think I've just been a little bit burnt out from Lightfall, although this Veil Containment story has got me really excited, and I can feel the narrative of Destiny 2 pulling me back in. And I tell you what, it's a really exciting feeling. I definitely think there's a lot to be positive about the future of Destiny 2. I am going to go into that in a future video. But let me know down in the comments what you think about the Veil Containment. What do you think about the story? And where do you think we're going with the Vex and also Maya Sundaresh? Well, that is it today for a quick look at the Veil Containment. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. For more Destiny 2 content like this, you can hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games for all the latest Destiny 2 content. Well, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you real soon.
Chioma Essie, research log, the Veil. I don't even know where to start. When we landed on Neptune, there was something waiting for us. An alien structure. It's an electromagnetic anomaly. No mass, but a tangible surface area. It's like a thesis statement to the von Neumann-Wigner hypothesis. It's definitely paracausal, like the Traveler. Maya calls it the Veil. She says she heard the name in a whisper when she looked at it. When I asked her who whispered, she said it was her own voice. I still haven't had time to process that. Everyone on the initial survey team died. The minute they touched the object, they entered a state of brain death. All of them. To make it worse, the EM radiation emitting from the Veil is causing psychological distress in the exos that came with us. They've all described moments of intense, hallucinogenic reverie. Some of them went silent and rigid and just stopped. Maya called it billboarding. Something from the early days of Clovis Bray's Exomind project. She doesn't seem afraid or surprised. She's convinced this thing, in her own words, she says, it'll be our salvation.
Fascinating. This corroborates what Nezarek said, that the Veil survived Savathun's escapade. This must have been the root of Savathun's betrayal, stalling the witness's plan to buy time to counter it.
So, she stole the Veil from Nezarek?
And killed him in doing so. It explains what happened to the lunar pyramid, why it's dormant.
And what about the rest of this? What happened to the Exos? Is that what happened to all of them?
I have some theories, but it's too early. Regardless, it sounds like the Veil had an ill effect on Dr. Sundaresh. We must be cautious. Hopefully the next log we decrypt will shed more light on this enigma.
Chioma Essie, research log, the Veil. We shouldn't settle here. It's a mistake. But Maya is insistent that we have to build our long-term shelters near the Veil. We're almost done constructing an enclosure around it. Once the field emitters are up, we should at least be safe from its radiation. The Siva tech Maya had on the Exodus was a lifesaver. Not only for building the enclosure, but shelters, tools. We'd be dead without it. But it still wasn't fast enough. The last XO in our group succumbed to brain death yesterday. Maya's quarantined the bodies for study. She says our next step should be finding a way to draw power from the Veil so we're self-sufficient. I'm insisting on turbines instead. But she doesn't think that's good enough. Not for as long term as this might be. Which, I guess. But I can't shake this feeling. Like we're making a terrible mistake.
I'm not getting a good vibe from this. Quinn says these records contradict some of her own. But there's a ton of references to Maya Sundaresh in our archives that are redacted. I'm worried, Osiris. What if everything we've been told our whole lives? What if it was all a lie?
Don't despair yet, young friend. The truth may be somewhere between these logs and what you've been told in the past. In my experience, history can be contradictory. Regardless, we won't know until we decrypt more of these logs.
Chioma Essie, incident log. The Vex.
Interesting.
6 weeks ago, our settlement came under attack by an intrusion of Vex forces. It was a test of our defenses for a larger incursion. Yesterday, scouts discovered temporarily realigned architecture just outside the stronghold limits. The Vex had retroactively inserted themselves into Neptune's history, just like they did on Venus. But unlike Venus, something stopped them short of our habitat. They had to fight their way in. I think it's the Veil. Something about the paracausal nature of the Veil is preventing their temporal excursions. But the Vex aren't giving up. They did something to Neptune's magnetic field. Wove a sim into it. A screen to isolate us. It's a double-edged sword. The Vex screen hides us from the outside world, from whatever's happened. So we're safe. Ish. But we're stuck with the Vex. Thankfully, they're slow to react. It's giving us time to research countermeasures. It's almost our anniversary. I should do something for Maya. She'll forget. She's always so busy. Computer, prepare food synthesis. File, Chioma date night 6. Oh, and add a bottle of port.
Osiris? You alright?
Yes, I'm fine. I just, saw shadows. My choices. Saint. Dr. Sandaresh and I walked very similar paths of obsession, it seems.
Oh,
Nevertheless, it appears that Neomuna's history is deeply tied to the Vex. Hopefully the next decryption will shed more light on this.
Chioma Essie, research log. Exos. Maya and I have built a working theory around the deaths of our Exo crewmates after their exposure to the Veil. According to Maya, Exo minds contain a combination of Vex radiolaria and something known as clarity. Radiolaria are alien microorganisms living within a hive mind state. Or, I suppose more accurately, a community. Clarity is, Maya described it as a paracausal power derived from an alien artifact. Something Braytech had kept secret. Something Maya thinks the Veil and this artifact are related. That the paracausal force from the Veil overloaded their exominds. Unraveled them. It's like taking a powerful magnet to an archaic magnetic storage device. Full erasure. But Maya, she thinks we can reverse engineer this phenomenon. Use it to write data to a clarity-infused object. Fabricate consciousness. Scientifically, the process seems sound, but morally... Maya keeps saying that we're past the point of morality. She said that. She's convinced that our survival hinges on mastery of the Veil. It's like she's the one unraveling. I feel like I'm losing her. But every time I try and push, I feel her move a little further away. I don't know if I can lose anything else. How much more can any of us lose before there's nothing left?
Nimbus, how much do you know about the Cloud Strider's creation? the technology used.
You don't think...
I make no assertions yet. But I worry that your neon-lit city may have darker roots than either of us knew.
Oh,
Chioma Essie. Research log. SIVA. SIVA is a nanotech fabrication system, intended to be used by Exodus ships to rapidly build necessary resources from base matter. Maya calls it Willa Bray's obsession, without a hint of self-awareness. But we both see the potential it poses for the future. Each nanomachine in SIVA's design is an independent, thinking machine, utilizing a distributed quantum network to coordinate movement. Like a mechanical version of Radiolaria. Probably where the design was inspired from, if I'm being honest. But the design can be pushed. We're looking at ways of incorporating components from disabled Vex and erased exomines. If we can insulate the nanomachines from the radiation that killed the Exos, maybe their deaths won't be for nothing.
wait. Does this really mean I'm part Vex?
Well, it's too early to jump to these conclusions, Nimbus. But there does seem to be some connection between the Vex and the Cloud Striders. It may explain why you and the others are able to enter the Vex network without the aid of splicers.
Can I time travel?
No, let's hope not.
Chioma Essie. Research log. Veil interface. Maya and I have finalized a prototype interface for the Veil. Hopefully it'll allow our research team to investigate it in detail. The system's designed like an orchestra, with a central conductor directing a symphony of minds to act like a distributed network. The idea came to us by watching how collective networks like SIVA and the Vex operate. The hope is we can aggregate and parse the vast amounts of psychic data emitting from the Veil, turn it into something intelligible. If we're successful, the interface will provide us with a starting point for any future technological research tied to the Veil. The risks of such integration are high. The estimated mortality rates are... But I don't know what I'm doing. This is wrong. This is so wrong. We shouldn't... All she ever talks about is survival. Think big picture. What about your survival? What about your heart? My heart? I can't keep doing this. I can't.
Again, I see a shadow of myself in Maya Sanderish. The man I could have become had I let obsession continue to rule me. I'm worried what the next recording will reveal.
Me too.
Chioma Essie. Research log. Veil interface. Supplemental. They're all dead. Chorus. Conductor. Everyone. It was too much. Swept their minds away like grains of sand on a beach. They're all dead. Maya called it valuable data points. Wellsprings and rivers are something. What have I done?
Did it? This killed their entire research team, but it sounds like... It's like...
Like their lives held no value to Dr. Sanderish. There's a troubling symmetry with data we've recovered from Titan. Data on the origin of the Witness. It too was once multiple people that became conjoined by the way of some sort of ritual with the Veil. Perhaps a conductor and a chorus. It is troubling that Dr. Sanderish seemed to be moving down that same path.
I don't like this, Osiris. I don't like this at all.